All right, it doesn't get any simpler than this, guys. By the end of this video, you are going to know the #1 easiest and simplest way to lose weight. But here's the deal. I will share this with you for free, but in exchange, if you really get value out of it, you have to like this video, you have to subscribe, and most importantly, you have to go execute, okay? Cool, let's get into it. Hey, what's up? My name is Schuyler. I'm the founder of Reach Fat Loss and Fitness, where our goal is to help you lose weight and keep it off and do it without any sucky or strict dieting, having to count calories or weigh your food, and definitely without having to eat 5 or 6 times a day. What you're going to learn in this video, as well as all the other videos I put out, have helped clients of mine lose weight and keep it off and feel amazing. And my goal with these videos is to help you do the same. So if you get value out of this, I would love to have you as part of that community. So tap that subscribe button and hit that bell. So, best strategy to lose weight. Easiest, simplest, let's talk about it. Before we actually dive into the strategy, I'm going to explain a little bit about the boxes we're checking here, right? Because I really want you to understand this on a deep level. The 2 things that we're going for when it comes to weight loss strategy are going to be effectiveness and sustainability. Effectiveness has to work, right? It has to be a strategy that works and works really well. And sustainability has to work. You have to lose the weight, but then you have to also be able to keep it off. I don't care if you lose 100 pounds, if you gain it back within the next year or 2, we have to focus on long-term sustainability. Okay, so we'll start here with effectiveness. And there's a few criteria in terms of how to make sure that a strategy is effective. So #1, and absolutely the most important, is your strategy has to put you in a calorie deficit. You cannot lose weight if you are consuming more calories than you burn. And so when we think about how certain foods have calories, this is the amount of energy within that food. And throughout the day, as we are moving, exercising, just as we're sitting around, we are burning off some of that energy. And so how to lose weight is you burn more energy than you consume. It does not matter what the diet is. If you are over consuming calories and you're not able to burn off enough, you're going to gain weight and the strategy is not going to work. #2, in terms of effectiveness, you can't have this massive gap in calorie deficit. Now, this is a little bit about sustainability, but the truth here is if you're going on some crash diet, if you are starving yourself, eating extremely small amounts of food throughout the day, your metabolism is going to slow down and you're going to burn out. This is what happens to the biggest loser contestants is they lose a ton of weight, but when it comes down to it, they can't sustain the amount of exercise they're doing to burn that many calories, and their appetite is shooting way up, and they can only out-willpower that appetite for long enough. So eventually they start consuming more calories than they burn, and they gain weight. They've done studies on this, they've done follow-up. A majority of the people that go through the Biggest Loser program end up gaining that weight back. So we want a calorie deficit, but we don't want a massive calorie deficit over time. So how do we create this in a sustainable fashion? Now, there's a few things that I believe are necessary when it comes to sustainability. #1, you can't cut foods out. If there is a food that you are not allowed to eat, there is a high likelihood that that strategy is not going to last, especially if it's a food that you love. I don't care how effective the keto diet is. I don't care how effective the carnivore diet is. Veganism, vegetarianism, there's a high likelihood that the average person who takes on these diets, even if they lose a ton of weight, aren't going to be able to sustain that eating style, and they're most likely to gain that weight back. #2, ideally, you can't take a lot of time. Something that's sustainable isn't going to take so much energy and so much time throughout the week. And so for me, that would be people who are cooking for every single meal. That would be people who are eating 6, 7 times a day. Anything that takes more time than what you're doing right now is most likely going to be difficult for the average person to adjust to. So in my eyes, it's not sustainable. #3, probably can't cost a lot of money, right? It is a great thing for many people who are able to afford meal prep companies to pay someone else or to pay a chef to cook for them, or even if you're on the carnivore diet and you're eating a steak for every meal, that can work. But for the average person, that's not very sustainable to be spending thousands of dollars on food every single month. #4, probably can't be complex, right? It can't be something that has a lot of involvement with attention to detail, goes back to taking a lot of time, but also just takes a lot of that mental energy and upkeep. For me, this would be trying to count macros and hit all your macro targets for fats, carbs, and proteins. I'll allow calorie counting for this one because even though calorie counting is complex, it's a little bit more easy to track than make sure you're hitting 4 targets every day: calories, fats, proteins, carbs. But while a person who's extremely disciplined and is able to eat the same thing every day can kind of make those tweaks and figure it out, for the average person who likes to switch up how they eat pretty often, who is going to events, who isn't completely dialed in and able to cook and weigh and log every single piece of food that they eat, it's probably not going to work long term. #5, can't work against your physiology. I don't care how disciplined you are, if you're doing a diet that works against what your body wants, it's not going to work. You can outfight it for a little period of time, but you're not going to be able to sustain that long term. And so to me, number one, low calorie diets, right? Your biology is literally hardwired to go seek out food. And so putting yourself on this extremely low calorie diet, yes, immediately you can last on that for maybe a couple days, potentially a couple weeks, but eventually your hormones are going to absolutely tank, your metabolism is going to slow down, and it's not going to be something that you're going to be able to sustain. I would kind of categorize veganism and vegetarianism in this category because your body needs a lot of nutrients that plants can't give you. Now, we do live in a society where supplements are available, so we can get the vitamin Bs, we can get the choline, we can get all the essential nutrients from outside supplementation, but that does add a little bit more complexity to it. So I'm not completely ruling that out. However, again, veganism, vegetarianism does rule out a food group completely, so it's still not okay for me. And the sixth category that we're going to look for here is it can't work against your psychology, right? When we think about sustainability, we have to be able to mentally keep up with this. And so if we were to take something like extreme workout diets where you have to run an hour a day, or you have to do 40-minute HIIT workouts or 60-minute boot camp classes, well, again, you can grit that out for a few weeks. If you're a person who hasn't been able to sustain something, the mental thought of going and doing an hour workout where your heart rate's up and it's super hard is going to be more likely to make you want to skip and not stay consistent. Along the same lines, I'd also work with the thing that any diet that cuts out foods, right? Because psychologically, when we're told we can't have something, it makes us want it even more. And then when we're faced with that temptation for long enough, there's a high chance that we're not able to stay consistent. So, can't cut out foods, can't take a ton of time, can't cost a lot of money, can't be complex, can't work against your physiology, and can't work against your psychology. So what is this strategy? I've got 4 things for you today. Number 1 is eat real food 80 to 90% of the time. What this allows you to do is when you are in control, when you have the ability to make a choice, you can decide on real food. And then when you go to events or when you're caught in a pinch, you don't have to feel guilty about having foods that are a little more processed. And something to note here is that real food doesn't necessarily mean you can't have things like cookies or cereal, right? If you look at cookies, cookies existed a couple hundred years ago. But it was made with real ingredients: flour, sugar, butter, cream, whatever else. If you go to the grocery store today and you look at most cookies, they're going to have fake ingredients that have been altered by man that are interrupting how our physiology works, such as maltodextrin, dextrose, high fructose corn syrup, enriched wheat flour. These ingredients are setting us up for failure. So again, if you enjoy sweets, if you enjoy snacking, you have the ability to do so, but you're focusing on finding these foods that use real ingredients. Second thing, I highly encourage you to aim for about the same amount of grams of protein as the amount of pounds in body weight that you want to weigh. So if your goal is weighing 160 pounds, aim for 160 grams of protein per day. Now there's a few things here. Number 1, protein is the macronutrient that keeps you satiated. So the more protein you have, the more full you're gonna feel, the less you're gonna deal with those hunger cravings. If you're plagued by hunger cravings all day, every day, of course it's gonna be difficult to stay consistent. But if you feel full, you feel satiated, you feel satisfied, you have a much higher likelihood of continuing this long term. And the biggest thing here is you don't have to log every piece of food. You don't have to weigh food. This is something you can estimate. If you're consuming a little bit less or a little bit more, it's not the worst thing in the world. But having some sort of idea of how much protein you're consuming is an awesome way to continue to lose weight. Number 3, in terms of exercise, weight training and walking. So not only do these two have an extremely effective way of changing your physiology, speeding up your metabolism, making you feel more full, more satiated, more satisfied, keeping you in a better mood, but both of these exercises also have very low barriers to entry. Think about the mental resistance of if I told you to go out and run an hour right now versus go for an hour walk. You might have some resistance of making the time, but in terms of the actual effort, a walk isn't going to feel super difficult, but at the same time, you're getting incredible metabolic benefits from doing so. It's also very straightforward. Anyone can walk. You don't have to have a person leading a class. You don't have to learn a ton of technique. You just go walk. And then as far as weight training, including 3 to 4 days a week of about 45 minutes can help you start to build more muscle, which is going to speed up your metabolism more. And you also have that experience of being able to push and then rest for 2 to 4 minutes. It's not this constant beat down where it's just this insane difficulty. You can just focus on showing up to the gym, focus on that next set. Even if you're tired, you do a set, you rest for 2 to 4 minutes. You don't have to worry about it. Come back, do another set. It's very different in terms of how you show up than an hour intense workout where your heart rate skyrocketed, your muscles are burning and fatiguing the entire workout. The resistance you're going to face is much lower and it's much easier to stay consistent. And then the fourth, and in my opinion, the most effective and most important is fasting. What fasting allows you to do is to allow your physiology to adapt to wanting to burn fat for fuel. And if you do it right, a lot of people think think if you do a 24-hour fast or longer, you're going to be very hungry, but it's surprising how good you feel on a fast. Not only do you get the benefit of fasting from being able to restrict calories naturally just by restricting the amount of time you eat, but you also allow your body to adapt to burning fat for fuel, and you give it a bunch of other benefits from increased aging, reduced inflammation, more energy, things that are going to make you feel better. So eat real food 80 to 90% of the time. Aim for about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight that you're aiming for. Walk and lift weights and fast. So why does this work so well? Why do I believe this is so effective? Well, let's look at our criteria. So effectiveness, it's got to put you in a calorie deficit. Guess what? You eat real foods, you're naturally going to be more full. You're not going to have those artificial ingredients that spike your appetite and that cause you to want to eat more calories. And with the fasting, you also are able to compress the amount of time you're eating, which is naturally going to put you into a calorie deficit as well. Sustainability, can't cut foods out. Again, if you're using real ingredients, you can create any food with real ingredients, but you also have the flexibility of that 5 to 10% of the time being able to just enjoy yourself and not worry about the food. There are no foods that are off limits. Can't take a ton of time. Guess what? Fasting, you don't have to think about food at all. Walking, weightlifting, 45 minutes or less a day, and for aiming for that protein number, not having to weigh all your food, this is a massive advantage of time. You're not having to sit down and eat 5 to 6 meals a day. You're not having to log out and weigh all your food. It's very intuitive and straightforward. Number 3, can't cost a lot of money. Guess what? If you're fasting, you're paying for less food. If you're eating real ingredients, you're less likely to be eating out, which is going to be paying more. I've had clients join my program and literally share that they're saving $300+ a month, even including the cost of my program. So they're literally saving so much money from the fasting and the not eating out that they can pay for my program and they have over $300 left each month. Number 4, can't be complex. Again, fasting, simple. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to go cook. You don't have to eat a ton. You just don't eat. And then when it comes to the ingredient quality, you just have a certain amount of ingredients you look for. But when you learn that, it gets very, very simple and it doesn't take a ton of time or energy. Number 5, can't work against your physiology. Guess what? Fasting is incredibly beneficial for how your body burns fat. There's a guy named Angus Barbieri who did a 382-day fast. He lost 276 pounds and he kept it off for the rest of his life. Whereas with a lot of these Biggest Loser contestants, they lose a ton of weight, but then because their metabolism is so slow, they gain it all back. Giving your body what it wants and needs, which is real food, and then you're allowing it periods of fasting where it can naturally burn body fat. And then number 6, can't work against your psychology. Guess what? No foods are off limits with this. When you're fasting, you actually feel better if you do it right. And so you're giving your body what it wants and what it needs. And it's also not extremely difficult, so you don't have this massive resistance or massive barrier to entry to getting started. So could you see how this can be so effective, and could you see how you could succeed with something like this? If the answer is yes, I've got a very simple task for you. Below this video in the description is a link to how to find my calendar and book a call with me. Go to that link, book a free strategy session. On that call, we're going to create a custom strategy for your lifestyle. And if it's a good fit, we can talk about how I can help you lose weight and keep it off for good. But whatever you do, follow these rules. Us humans have this weird ego thing where we know all this stuff, we can comprehend it, but then the next fad diet comes along that promises that we're going to lose a ton of weight fast and we jump right into it. Don't do some other cleanse. Don't do some other crazy restrictive diet. Take your time with this, commit to this system, and you will see results over time. And again, if I can help you, you know where to find me below. But again, this channel is here to get you in the best shape of your life. So if you're not subscribed, make sure you do. If this video helped you, make sure you hit that like button. You can check out some of the other videos that I've released. And of course, as always, make sure to eat smart, move more, sleep deep, and be grateful for this moment. I'll see you in the next video.